Over the years, I've discussed with other friends of mine what makes a video game great. It covers various areas as the discussion goes on until at some point it turns into a war of which game is better, blah blah blah, and it usually results in someone throwing an insult or a chair. At least it was like that early in my childhood. Yeah. But back to this mediocre video, the one point I always seem to go to with these discussions is passion. The developers, the writers, the publishers, they all have to be passionate about what they're creating. And Marvel Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 is the best example of that in my recent, if somewhat alcoholic memory. Allegedly. And if you're worried about spoilers in this video, the game's been out for over a year. Come on. Right then. The gameplay above all else is what made this game so much fun to play. 2004 was when Spider-Man 2 of the Sam Raimi trilogy came out, and with it, a video game tie-in that redefined what Spider-Man games should be. Or so I thought. Yeah, us fans got a bunch of crap in the 14 years between that game and this one. Web of Shadows was decent, and Ultimate Spider-Man was good. But really, there hasn't been a Spider-Man game that truly made you feel like Spider-Man until this one. And it's all because of the immersion. But Commando, you unbiased architect of knowledge, how is this possible, you may ask? Well, when the combat system is simple and it gives you all the basics that are needed to play as Spider-Man, it's quite effective. It's akin to what the Batman Arkham series was. You aren't playing in this character's shoes, you are controlling him. And having good basic control is what's required when it comes to this person. Yes, it can be rinse and repeat at times when you play it or when I played it, but what more do you want from it? You have all the gadgets that Peter Parker is smart enough to make, and it's the ability to combine those gadgets on the fly in mid-battle with those simple controls that makes the game fun. Even my crappy gameplay on display, partly because I was rusty, the game was fun, and that's what keeps it fresh. And yes, Spider-Man did fall into the open sandbox trope of going to multiple areas over the entire story and clearing out buildings and warehouses and such and blah, 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 blah. But it's the ability to customize your abilities with suit mods, suit powers, and other gadgets that keeps it fresh. You probably may have asked yourself, how can they do that? Well, how can it be this boring, or not this boring? How can it stay fresh even with the rinse and repeat style gameplay in that sense? Well, it's quite simple. Exploring New York City itself is an adventure. So from finding Peter's old backpacks with those collectible mementos in each one, to taking pictures of Madison Square Garden or Avengers Tower, it's those things that help build the world that you are exploring. While swinging throughout the city to my next mission or a gang hideout, I seem to find myself getting sidestepped by random crimes constantly on the street to stop in some amazing areas like Times Square and Penn Station. And then afterwards, I just stared in wonder that they could recreate this setting in such stunning detail and make it so close to what New York City looks like. And I always ended up leading me to taking more pictures and finding other landmarks, so I would always get pulled away to do something else because it was just so much fun. And especially just to swing around as Spider-Man or go ride a subway and see how he interacts with the main people, which has his own little amusing cutscene, which was funny. It's all just a wonderful place to explore and have fun doing that. I just wish that there had been a world beyond the main island of New York City to explore, had they been able to actually branch that out. I do remember from the Ultimate Spider-Man game that you could do that in a sense, and swing from bridge to bridge over to outside of the island, and I wonder why they couldn't do it for a minute. But when I did think about it, I thought, they were probably more than likely limited by the technology of the PlayStation, the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, I'll say, powerful as those consoles might be. But it's hard to really be able to keep a seamless world like that, go across bridges outside of the island, and keep it all same detail without sacrificing performance. So, yeah. To me, it was either that or the developers thought it wasn't needed for the story, and for the most part, I agree. Peter is primarily in the city now that he's older. He's not in Queens anymore, so it fits. But that doesn't mean with the increased power of the PlayStation 5 when it comes out, I would like them to do that and expand it out to places like Queens or even beyond that. But we'll sort of see what happens with that. It's just one of those things I do wish was in the game, but it's okay that it wasn't. It didn't ruin the rest of it because I'd never thought about it again after that point. I just can remember it in detail because I overthink things. Anyway, everything in here was put in with extreme care because the developers loved this character, and they knew what the fans wanted. They wanted something that made them want to keep playing and want more of it. It didn't hurt that Insomniac took the extra step and put in tons of Spider-Man's old suits that he's worn over the years since his creation. So from the recent Marvel Cinematic Universe standouts of Tom Holland to the Ends of the Earth and even the Amazing Bagman, there's just about something for everyone in here. And even when it wasn't originally included, fan demand for the Sam Raimi trilogy suit was eventually added in months after launch, for free. And even the Far From Home suit from the past year was added nearly a year after launch. That's what I call great customer service from people that actually give a damn, you know? And my voice changed there. Anyway, I know that I probably sound like a broken record, but I just can't help it. It's an immersive game that goes beyond beating up bad guys and fighting supervillains, whether it's having the ability to high-five strangers on the street or take selfies, even visit Uncle Ben's grave, sad face, or just swing around for the hell of it. It just shows how much Insomniac actually care about the character that is Spider-Man, and that they had to make it as good as they could. They understood the character, and wanted to keep him relatable to the fans across the globe. That ability to see who Spider-Man is, or who Peter Parker is, God, that's a tongue twister, somehow I screwed that up. But their ability to see that character as he is helped create a story that I would say is what a blockbuster summer film could be. Now, that's not to say that the MCU Spider-Man or Sam Raimi films aren't good. We also won't mention the Andrew Garfield ones because Sony royally screwed up there. Though that could be said for Spider-Man 3 as well. Crap, I just did. Anyways, this variation of Peter Parker in this universe is who we can all identify as at some point in our lives. Struggling to pay rent, maintain healthy relationships, having to go to work while balancing his superhero responsibilities, it relays the message that we all at some point have struggled to find our way. It just happens to be that Peter Parker's life is 100 times that of ours because, well, he's a superhero dealing with supervillains, crooks, drug dealers, and just general aspects of crime that could result in his death. No biggie. And then, if only for a moment, you realize that he's still low level in terms of his status as a hero. At least it seems like in this tale. When we see Avengers Tower in the distance while he's taking a picture, he remarked, "It would be cool to see the inside of that building or meet them." Not an exact quote, but that's the gist of it. It's those little touches that help establish what world this Peter Parker resides in and who he is in it. He's a man who's been a hero for 8 years but struggles in his life. We may not have his powers, but most of us understand what struggle is in life, and finding that balance is hard. Of course, though, it's those other characters that Peter takes on his journey in trying to find the balance in his life. His relationship with Mary Jane is consistently challenged as she knows who he is, not she. I'm not doing that. And her inspiring desire to be a reporter to speak the truth and help him cause Peter great distress as she continues to put herself in situations he feels is too dangerous. Hello, Lois Lane. She feels he's too protective, he feels she's being reckless, and it all sounds and feels like a real relationship would, just arguing at some point and then making up. They do love each other, but they have things to work through. And even the late Stan Lee makes an appearance before his well, I won't say untimely, the dude was over 90, so rip. But he made the appearance and even said he was happy to see them get together again. If anything is for sure in the Spider-Man universe, it's that Peter Parker and Mary Jane will always be connected. Again, Insomniac understood that and gave the fans that much wanted desire. Sure, it's fun to think of Spider-Man with Black Cat or Silver Sable or Shadowcat from the X-Men. Yeah, they dated in the Ultimate Universe comics. Go look it up. But at the heart of it all, these two are what the fans want. Period. And I'm going to take a mid-break. Sorry if I'm kind of stuttering a little bit. My throat's kind of jacked up, so I'm just trying to work through this. Just bear with me. It's not going to get any better. Anyway, Otto Octavius, well, we know who he eventually becomes. But his motivations in this universe are those of revenge and fear. He's slowly losing his motor functions, which will disable him essentially in a year. So he and Peter are trying to find a technology or create it to save himself and others, though Peter doesn't know this until later, He just thinks that they're going to save people in general. But when he does find out, that only makes Peter care more for Otto because he sees his work as good and just, to help the greater good, and even stays with him when he knows there's not going to be any more money coming in for a paycheck. That comes courtesy of everyone's favorite scumbag, Norman Osborn. It's there that Otto wants to make Osborn pay for his past deeds done to him, and part of his desire to get this tech perfected to do this. Seeing Otto's transformation from good person to tragic villain is both sad and beautiful, much like what we saw with Joker in the past year with the filmmaking industry. We're human, and seeing this only reminds us that anyone can fall to temptation and anger. And unfortunately, with the creation of Doc Ock that results from his research, Octavius unleashes hell in New York City through a virus to expose Osborn for who he is. And it's this that ultimately causes Peter to make the impossible choice to let his Aunt May die so that he can cure everyone else and save them from certain death. See, Marvel? They killed Aunt May. Why can't you? God, I hate it one more day. Oh, sorry, I went on a rant there. Martin Lee, whose alter ego is the supervillain Mr. Negative, sets off the events early in the game after the Kingpin's fall, which eventually arcs over into Doc Ock taking over and forming the Sinister Six. All this falls back to Norman Osborn because why wouldn't it? Even though he's not Green Goblin here, he's the one that set all these events into motion that caused the creation of Mr. Negative and Doc Ock. Norman has a redeeming moment at the end of the story, if you can call it that, but it does not make up for the things he has done. That's what makes him Norman Osborn, and it's nice to see Insomniac stay faithful to his characters' attributes despite retelling their stories for their purpose. And it's not just the main characters, but the likes of Miles Morales, Silver Sable, Yuri Watanabe, Alicia Harding, Taskmaster, Shocker, Electro, Rhino, Vulture, and Kingpin, among a slew of others, all make appearances throughout. Some are not as explored as I'm sure fans wanted, including myself, such as Sable, but that was until the DLC was released. But when you're telling a story like this, then you gotta make sacrifices. But overall, it works as it should, and honestly, if you complain about it, and you're really trying too hard to critique it. At least that's my opinion. And it doesn't hurt that all this sets up for a eventual sequel because Insomniac probably knew this game was going to be great. So at the least, we may get more development of those characters in a sequel. Sometimes you just know. So what does all this mean exactly? Nothing really. It's just my thoughts on a game I enjoyed. Now, if you want to go on a deeper level, then here's what it exactly meant. Not just for me, but for millions of fans that grew up as Spider-Man fans. It was a great game that we finally got that met and exceeded our expectations, or at least mine. It gave us that feeling of just having fun while a great story was being presented before us. It was a reminder of why the video game industry is at times considered better than the film industry right now. When you have people that actually care and give a damn, and all know what, and every one of them knows what they're working towards, you can create something amazing, and that's what this is. I'm looking at you right now, Disney. And you also have to remember, this game wasn't even considered the best of 2018 when it was released. You had other standouts like God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2 that came out that year. That's how good it was. It took two games that received even higher critical acclaim to top it. So, does it mean that it has minor flaws? Yes. Every game has flaws, some bigger than others. But when those flaws are so minute compared to the overall success and achievement in a game, it doesn't take away from it. And it just does so many things about it. I could talk about how I didn't like the Mary Jane and Miles Morales sneak around missions. I thought they were boring and they weren't needed in a game about Spider-Man, but Insomniac thought they did. They needed to be in there. So they put them in there. And at least they tied him into the story itself, such as Miles losing his father in a terrorist attack while you see Mary Jane crying over Peter, who is knocked unconscious because he's in the middle of the crowd and he doesn't have a Spider-Man costume on or uniform. But the thing is, they interlocked them in the game so well, but they were also so small in terms of the grand scheme of the game. Who cares? We could poke holes in any great games, music, and movies if we really want to. But if they're so stupid and minor, why should we? It makes no sense if you get immense enjoyment. If you want some pretentious POS to do that, go read The New Yorker where they smell their own fecal matter when it's released. I'll sit here and enjoy playing this game, or any other game, or anything that I have that gives me a sense of enjoyment. And I'll continue to play this one until a sequel comes out. So, with all that being said, I just have this to say. Thank you, Insomniac, for giving this to us. I know you're a business that has to make money, but you put your heart and soul into this. And so I say this again and again and again. Thank you for this game, and all the others you have produced over the years. From Ratchet and Clank to Infamous Second Son, just you guys have produced so many great things. And don't forget, you got Sunset Overdrive, another underrated game that nobody talks about, unfortunately. But that game is what led to Insomniac creating this. So, again, thank you. Thank you for actually caring about Spider-Man. Sincerely, thank you. Anyway, that's my opinion. Take it for whatever you want. It's whatever. If you enjoyed it, if you did enjoy it, sub to the channel and leave a like. I'm going to be posting more of these a little bit more often. And enjoy the other videos on this channel that I pump out in mediocre quality as well, because I work a full-time job that's requiring a little bit more of my time than I like. But it pays well. And I also like to sleep, so I don't always have a set schedule. I need to work on that. Shameless self-advertising. Anyways, thank you again, and I'll be seeing you.